What's happening, friends? Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick, and on this channel I talk about cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, and economics. Today's video is about how I would go about constructing a DeFi portfolio for passive income on the Terra Network. This is the fourth video in this series. Previously, I covered how I would build a portfolio on Avalanche, on Phantom, and on Binance Smart Chain, and I'll link those videos down below. Before I go any further, I want to emphasize that nothing in this video is suggesting that this portfolio should be your portfolio, or even that you should invest in the many coins that I'll talk about today. These are just tokens or coins that I have high conviction in and that I would be comfortable holding in a portfolio, but you should always do your own research and find coins that you would be comfortable holding. Now that I've said that, we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right into it. First thing that's important to talk about is the different categories that we'll use for our portfolio today. This is the framework that I use to build my DeFi portfolio, and I have four categories. First category is stablecoins. If you're familiar with Terra Luna, you are probably familiar with stablecoins because Luna is all about stablecoins. And basically stablecoins are pegged to a country's currency, occasionally pegged to other things, but generally to a country's currency like the US dollar, the euro, Swiss franc, etc. And those are going to be about 30% of our portfolio. That might seem high to some people, and if you only have a small amount in crypto and you have lots of cash elsewhere, then perhaps it is high. However, it is important to always have some stablecoins or cash so that one can buy the dip. Like recently we saw a lot of coins drop 30, 40, even 50%. If you didn't have any stablecoins, then you were certainly more stressed out than someone who had stablecoins and could load up on coins at low prices. Next category is going to be our high conviction large cap cryptos. So these are usually layer ones or sometimes other large DeFi projects that have a proven team that we'd be comfortable holding through large corrections. So for example, Luna, I first bought it back in the spring. It was around maybe $14, and then it crashed all the way down below $5 over the summer and held it through because this was a high conviction large cap. And then I of course bought more when after it crashed, as one ought to do with the coin that one has high conviction in. And a lot of people ask, well, what qualifies as a large cap? I don't have a mid cap category here, so I count anything that's over $1 billion or in the top 100 as a large cap. But you should use your own judgment ultimately to figure out what would qualify as a large cap for you. Next category, which is 20%, will be our high conviction small cap cryptos. These are going to be similar to the large caps, but these ones are smaller, so inherently more risky. Their market cap might be in the realm of a few hundred million, maybe even smaller. And these ones, again, have proven teams, solid long-term roadmaps, but perhaps they don't have quite the adoption yet to be a large cap, so they don't have as much of a moat as a coin that might be top 10, top 20, or even top 50. And then final category is going to be the Moonshots or Degen projects. These projects are often highly inflationary, but have very, very high yields. And when they do pay off, they can pay off big. And this one I have at 10%. I would say this is really the most I would ever have it in my portfolio. 5% might be good as well. But once you get above 10%, you are exposing yourself to a lot of risk. And so those are the four categories that we're going to look at today. As far as the platforms that we'll be using, first is Anchor Protocol. This is the largest DeFi project on Terra and an incredible place to earn some yield on stablecoins. So we will be using Anchor. Then for our DEXs, we'll be looking at TerraSwap. We'll also be looking at Astroport. And both of those together, they don't display their APRs on the DEX themselves. So we'll be looking at CoinHall to find which pools have better APRs there. And one thing I'll note is that TerraSwap does not have their own token, so these pools are not incentivized. So all the APR is based on volume and fees, which means that it can fluctuate heavily. Astroport does have their own token. However, right now there's no way to see APR on the platform, and it's not clear how many rewards are accruing. So I'm really hoping they fix that at some point. But in the meantime, it's really tough to discuss the APRs on Astroport, and most of them, truthfully, are not very good right now. We'll also be looking at Loop. So Loop is another DEX on Terra. It's also a content platform and community. This one has probably the best rates of all the DEXs that we'll look at today. The one catch here, for some reason, all these DEXs have catches, but I'll talk about that in a second. The one catch here is that they have a 2-week minimum staking period before rewards can be claimed. So you can unstake before then, but you don't get the rewards. And then I think that would be reasonable, although not ideal, except that if every time you stake more, the 2-week timer resets. So you can't dollar cost average into a pool here, and that's quite frustrating. Or you can't dollar cost average if you want to be able to ever take rewards out. So that's pretty frustrating. And yeah, so the thing I was going to say about DEX is I think if there's any developers watching this, there's a great opportunity for you to just build a normal DEX on Terra. It doesn't need to have anything fancy. It doesn't need to have any gimmicks. Just give us a good assortment of liquidity pools that have high inflationary rewards so we can earn 100% without any sort of delay or lockup period like you can on every other chain. Every other chain you go on, you can earn 90%, 100%, 150% by pairing good coins and somehow they make it work. So free tip for any devs out there. Some other platforms that we'll look at is Spectrum. Spectrum is a yield aggregator and has some pools on platforms that incentivize you for providing liquidity on their own token, like Pylon, Mirror with their synths, Spectrum, Nexus, etc. And then we'll also briefly look at Osmosis, which is the main DEX on Cosmos. Then we will look at Nexus and Stader as opportunities to earn yield on single-sided Luna. Cool. So with all that being said, let's figure out how we can build our portfolio on Terra. First thing we're going to want to do is to find a good place to earn yield on our stablecoins. And the most straightforward place is definitely Anchor on Terra. Anchor protocol allows you to deposit UST and earn 19.49%, so almost 20%. And it's been like that for the better part of a year now. So people who have been in since early last year have almost gotten this full 20%. And the way that this is paid out is it's a combination of interest from people who have borrowed UST. And also, Anchor stakes their collateral, which is either Luna or ETH, and then uses the rewards to keep that yield high. And it's a pretty ingenious system, and that's why it's one of the largest DeFi protocols, not just on Terra, but in all of DeFi. And I think for many people, this would be a great place to have your stablecoins. That being said, people who watch this channel a lot know that oftentimes when we're looking at stablecoin pools, we can get closer to 25 or 30%. So let's see if we can find one of those opportunities on Terra. And come to find out, there actually is one. So there's this pool, AUST and UST on a loop that is 22.6%, but it's actually more than 22.6 because AUST is the token you get when you stake UST on Anchor, and it represents your share of the Anchor pool. And then, so that AUST is really UST that's earning 20%. And then you can pair that with USD for people who want to swap between them. I don't know why you'd want to do that. But for people who want to swap between them and then earn 22.6% on top of that. And if you do the math between the 20% on the AUST half and the 22.6% on the entire thing, you would be earning closer to 30% or more from this. And so that's going to be the best yield for stablecoins, as far as I can tell, on Terra. And so this will be where I put the 30% of my stablecoins in this portfolio I'm making. So 30% of stablecoins are going into the AUST, UST pool, 30%. That's an awesome yield. And that's what I'm going to go with. Next, we want some high conviction, large cap pools. And if you're on Terra, you are probably bullish on Luna. So I'm going to look to include Luna in these pools. I want some solid exposure to Luna in this Terra portfolio. So let's figure out some pools that we can do here. First, maybe you want some exposure to Luna without impermanent loss. If you're willing to do impermanent loss, this Luna UST pool at 81% is decent. That's actually very good. If you don't want impermanent loss, then Luna, because Luna is bonded Luna on Anchor and will always tend towards the price of Luna in the long run. You can get 23% on that, and that's I think I'd be pretty happy with that on single-sided Luna. If we go to Coin Hall for the sake of comparison, Astroport, less than 1%, no thank you. Terra Swap, we're looking at 11%, so not any better here. By the way, if you can hear any background noise, I do apologize. The city is doing some work on a water main. They have these metal plates set up, and it just is all day and night, so I had to make the video with noise in the background. Apologies. But yeah, so I think Loop is going to be the best opportunity here. Two other places you might look for single-sided exposure to Luna in the future would be Nexus protocol, which I'll link to in the description along with all of these platforms. You can earn 7% on bLuna here. Not as good as the bLuna Luna pools, even on TerraSwap, but still decent for single-sided. Another place you can go is Stader. Stader offers liquid staking, and so you can exchange your Luna for Luna X or stake it for Luna X if you prefer, and you can earn 9.74% on that, so almost 10% on single-sided Luna. However, for the purposes of this video, and I think these are all great protocols, but for the purposes of this video, we want passive income and yield. So I'm going to go with this bLuna Luna pool, 23%, very good for single-sided. And I'm not going to put the full 40% in there. That's going to put half of the 40% in there. So 20% of our portfolio will be in bLuna Luna pool on Loop. And then we still have to account for the other 20% in this high conviction large cap. So for this, one place that I am actually going to look is on Osmosis. And Osmosis is the main DEX for Cosmos, so it's not technically on Luna. However, it's actually quite easy to bridge Luna across the IBC, or I don't even know if you technically call that bridging, transfer it across the IBC, if you will. And you can do that. It's straightforward. I have another video on how to do that. And here you can get some good yields on Luna. You can pair it with Osmo and get 92%, or you can pair it with Atom and get 28%. And I think both of those are good options. Atom is much larger than Osmo. Osmo is the native DEX of Osmosis. However, it is rank 60 on CoinGecko last I checked, which means that it would fall into this large cap category. So I think I'm going to go with the Luna Osmo pool. And some people might be worried about impermanent loss here. You know, a lot of people always say that when I talk about these pools. I will say I was in the Luna Osmo pool for 3 months, just exited recently, and the APR was actually between 100 and 140% the entire time I was in it, and I exited with the same amount of Luna and Osmo that I entered with, or was within 1%. So they actually, their prices increased by almost exactly the same amount in that 3-month period, and all the while I was earning over 100%. So if you're bullish on both coins in a pool, then impermanent loss is probably not as bad as one thinks. Even if one coin stayed flat and the other one doubled, your impermanent loss is only 6%. So it's actually not as bad as most people think. It only really becomes an issue if one coin does a 10x, in which case, providing liquidity would not have been a good move in that case. So I'm going to go with the other 20% in this Luna Osmo pool, and so that accounts now for 70% of our portfolio. Just as a recap, we have 30% in the AUST pool on Loop. We have 20% in the bLuna Luna pool on Loop. We have 20% in the Luna Osmo pool on Osmosis. Next up, we're going to want to find a high conviction small cap. So this is going to be a good project with a solid team, but that is just a bit smaller. So I think there's some solid options you can look at in the Terra ecosystem here. Anchor, so the ANC token for Anchor, this is one of the largest platforms in DeFi, so owning their governance token might be useful. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a lot of uses right now, but if the team were to change the tokenomics and build in some more uses, that could be good. Mirror, the synthetic asset platform on Terra, could be solid as well. Let's see some other ones. Halo is a good project, even smaller. You know, this one might be considered a micro cap, but it's a charitable giving project leveraging Anchor yields. Mine is a platform for directing your Anchor yields towards paying subscription services, and it's also a launch pad. And then there's some other ones on Terra as well. One that you might look at would be PSI for Nexus protocol, which is that yield optimizer I talked about a minute ago. Personally, I don't like investing in usually don't like investing in inflationary yield optimizers because just for whatever reason, they almost never perform well. My theory is that it's tough to capture value as a middleman, but if you are bullish on it, the yields on this are decent. But for me, I really like Anchor. I just think it's such a good platform. So I'm going to want exposure to the ANC token. And there's a few options here. You could do Loop ANC with 221%. I mean, that is really tempting, seriously tempting. The problem with that is that Loop maybe falls more into the Degen category just because the market cap, I think, is like something along the lines of like 20 or 30 million right now. And it is obviously quite inflationary just based on these APRs. So I'm going to go with ANC UST at right around 100% APR, and I'm going to be very happy with that yield. And the nice thing about this is that it fits exactly with the profile of yields that I'm looking for, which is as you go from less risky to more risky, you should oftentimes be getting higher yields. Not all the times, but if you think about it, you're going from stablecoins, so your yield's not going to be as good, to large caps, it'll be slightly better because you're committing to holding crypto. Small caps, which are even riskier, so your yield should be getting better, and then degens should just have a crazy yield. And so far that's fit, right? We had 30% in stablecoins. We averaged around 55% for the large caps, and then we're at 100% for small caps. And then let's see if we can keep that going, right? Can we double it again for the Degen project? And sitting on Loop here, we could do some of these other platforms I talked about. We could do PSI, we could do Mine, but Loop is my favorite DEX on Terra after preparing to make this video, just because the yields are better. So I think this Looper pool is really enticing with its 289% APR, and compounded that's going to be much, much higher because I don't even know what that's going to be. It's probably going to be like 500 to 1,000% compounded, and maybe even higher than that. And the Loop, so Loop is the token for Loop Finance, the marketplace, and then Looper is their community token as well. And both of them have performed similarly recently. So my 10% Degen play is going to be this pool, 289%, even with the 2-week lockup. I think this project has been around for a while, so I think it will be around for the foreseeable future as well. I don't know how the token will do, but I think the project will be around. And so that's my portfolio on Terra. I would be very happy with this portfolio. And one thing I want to emphasize here is that you don't actually need a lot of holdings. So we only have 5 pools here, 5 pools, but we have exposure to Anchor, one of the largest DeFi projects. We have exposure to the Cosmos ecosystem through Osmo. We have significant exposure to Luna. We have a nice stablecoin holdings, and then we have exposure to an up-and-coming DEX on Terra, and that's only with 5 different pools. And we're earning, if you put $1,000 into this, just thinking about it off the top of my head, you'd probably be earning a few dollars a day, and that would be quite nice. It might not seem like a lot to be earning, say, $4 a day, but if you did that for a week, you have $28, and for a month, you have $120, and then you can invest that into new low cap coins that you think have potential to go up a lot, and that's a great way to increase your exposure to crypto without risking the money that you already have in projects that you believe in more fully. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know if there's any other strategies that you're using on Terra. And if you have any other networks that you want me to do a portfolio strategy for, please request those below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, I would definitely appreciate if you would consider liking, subscribing, and following me on Twitter. That's all I got for today. Till next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.